Oh, you wanna? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, we're just a couple minutes away from Xavier joining us on the dais. Just as a reminder, we'll have the head coach, the starters, up here, and then we'll dismiss the student athletes into the breakout rooms a few minutes in, and then leave coach up here. And then the locker rooms will be open once we start here for about 20 minutes. Yeah, we got a few bodies. Plenty of seats up front. Come on. You ready? Good. Yeah, no problem. No problem. We've needed some question and answer asking anyway at different times. So. All right, just as about to get started, just as a reminder to turn your cell phones off or put them in the vibrate position. No flash photography, nor videotaping with your smartphone device while we go. Fellas, welcome. Good. How about you? All righty, just about ready to get underway. Left to right, Coach Chris Mack, J.P. McCura, Malcolm Bernard, Trayvon Blewett, Quentin Gooden, and Tyreek Jones. We'll have Coach give us an opening statement, and then we'll just open it up to questions for anybody up here. Coach?
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, we're thrilled to be in the position that we are. But as I said last night, I feel like we've earned our way to this position. We recognize we have a tremendous team ahead of us tomorrow afternoon. You know, they've been terrific all year. They've got some players with various skills and talents, and we're going to have to bring our best tomorrow night to win, but that's what we aim to do.
All right, we have, just put your hands up for questions. We'll go in the front. Just give your name and affiliation on the first go.
Hey guys, Pat Brennan, Cincinnati Enquirer. Chris, this is for you. It seems like the bigs have faced a pretty unique challenges at each phase of the tournament here. What kind of a challenge is facing this 7'1", 300-pounder?
The biggest. I mean, Karnowski is he's a load. I think Xavier fans will harken back to Matt Stainbrook. The similarities are they're eerie. I mean, he's 3 or 4 inches taller than Matt. No disrespect to Matt, he's in better shape, and he has a great touch, a unique ability to pass from his position. He affects shots defensively at the rim, and Gonzaga does a really good job of keeping him in the lane defensively, and that's one of the reasons they have the best defense in the country by their numbers. So he's a big challenge. I love our post players. They've played their tails off here during tournament play, and they're going to need to do that tomorrow in order for us to advance.
Go in the back left, standing.
Jacob Thorpe, Spokesman Review. Chris, a lot of your opponents in the tournament have talked about the difficulty or how they struggled with your team's ability to shift defenses on the fly. What's the key to making that work, and is that an area in which your team has improved over the last month or so?
It's definitely an area that our team's improved. I probably didn't give them a chance to improve in it early in the year because we didn't play multiple defenses, but I think we recognized as a program that in order to give our guys the best chance to compete, that was what we had to do. For us, it doesn't really come down to what our opponent is necessarily trying to do. We have to be able to communicate because different teams are going to attack it differently. With the short turnaround that we have, being able to recognize how Gonzaga wants to attack our zone, our zones, I should say, and how they want to attack our man defense is paramount. When we understand that, then it's all about being able to communicate and understand where shooters are, where our positioning needs to be, and then playing with our hair on fire, playing harder. And I think we did that in the second half. And then anytime you play zone, you have to figure out a way to rebound the ball. We didn't do it in the first half of yesterday's game. We did it in the second half, and ultimately that was the reason we were able to pull away.
Left side, fourth row.
Ron Karchik from the San Francisco Chronicle. For any of the big guys, maybe kind of echoing the question to Chris earlier about Karnowski on what kind of challenge he presents and how much, not just being 7'1", but being 300 pounds and as wide and mobile as he is, how difficult that makes that challenge.
I just think we had to come out, be tough, and just contain him and make everything that he gets tough, and he has to work harder for it than we do, and that's just basically it.
Standing, back left.
Just to follow up on that earlier question, what was the impetus to become more multiple with your defenses?
Necessity, the fact that we weren't playing 10, 11 guys. Wanted to keep them fresher. We had guys playing heavy minutes. For instance, Quentin went from playing 14, 15 minutes a game to playing 35 minutes a game. And quite honestly, we weren't very, very good at man. And I'm not going to keep doing something if it's not effective. And I think our players, it took a while for us to be confident in it, to understand all the different slides and things that we had to do. But I think, again, we're far from perfect, but our effort's been good and our understanding's much better.
On the left, third row.
Jeff Ferrato, the Mercury News. For Chris and maybe for one of the players, if you could address this. I'm sure all the Cincinnati people are tired of it, but could you tell us the story about burning the calendars and carrying the ashes around, sort of when that happened, Chris, why you thought of it, how you thought of it, and sort of symbolically what it's meant to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I know that story's getting a lot of publicity, and but I want to make sure that everybody understands that the character of our guys and their ability to fight through adversity and still believe in our coaching staff and each other is paramount. It started with after our fifth straight loss in a row, which by the way was a brutal stretch. We had Villanova, 3 road games against NCAA tournament teams, followed by Butler at home. We were missing Trayvon for 3 of those games, Edmond for all of them. And, even though that we had lost 5 in a row, I wanted our guys to understand 2 things: the magnitude of the schedule we had just played, and secondly, that we were still an at-large team by every bracketologist known to man. We were still an 8-9 seed, so as low as we felt, we were still a tournament team. They had to believe that and understand there was a lot to play for moving forward. So we had a calendar printed up with the game dates and the scores and the results, and I asked each of the guys to write down one thing without revealing it to their teammates that they were willing to sacrifice, for the remainder of the season, for the betterment of the team. And whether they believed it or not, they did it. We lit the calendars on fire in a big aluminum trash can. It takes a while for things to burn. I didn't realize that. Meeting went about a half hour longer than expected. And then we took the ashes, and I asked Alan Payne to go to Walmart and buy an urn. He got there, and the only one was like pink with green flowers on it, so we didn't think that was appropriate. So he bought a jar that you could see through, and we just called it an urn. And we've kept the ashes in there ever since. And the symbolism is to not worry about what's happened behind us, but to focus on moving forward, control what we can. And we've tried to keep that urn either at the scores table during practice when our players walk in the locker room, on the locker room floor, and our manager's done a terrific job taking it everywhere we've gone.
I mean, like Coach Mack said, it represents the month of February, and we went through a tough 6-game stretch. And as players, when we look at that jar, we just know to move forward, and that the past is done with, and we're going to look forward to playing more games.
Second row middle.
Jim Wazarski, Cincinnati Enquirer. I guess, Chris, I'll start with you, but if JP, Malcolm, or Trayvon could jump into this with Quentin. And have, as you mentioned, that role he had to then play and grow into sort of unexpectedly at the time. What was maybe the challenge there as a coach when that happened so suddenly? And then I guess for you upper class backcourt mates, how have you seen him grow since then?
Yeah, to start off, I would say that from day one, Quentin's been a terrific defender, and that gave him a chance. He wasn't the guy that was getting blitzed off the bounce, forgetting assignments. He took great pride in his defense. Where I think Quentin struggled at times was his decision-making and his confidence, like most freshmen. And I think once he sort of got his sea legs under him, was able to play through mistakes, he didn't have that luxury early on because when he made a few mistakes in a row, it was easy to pull him to the side, put him on the bench, and let an all-conference player go in. And, sometimes that's what you need when you're young. You need an opportunity to make a few mistakes and continue to play through them. And I think his teammates have gained a great confidence in Quentin throughout these last couple months. I know I have. He's wide-eyed. He's never at one point ever felt like or showed like he had answers or he was giving excuses as to why he couldn't do something or didn't do something. And that's the trait of a great player and a humble kid. And I'm happy for him because put a lot of time in the film room. I've been on him. I was on him last night, because he still didn't know what he was doing in the zone. But he's done a great job. I'm happy for him.
I would have to say the same as Coach. Quinn being a freshman, he had to step into that role and become our point guard and our leader on the floor. And I think he's done a tremendous job. He's found his way, and he's definitely been helping us a lot, and we've been helping him too. And I think that works both ways. Obviously, you have to listen to the coaching staff, but you have to listen to the guys that are around you on the floor. And we try to do our best in helping him get through this process just as much as he does his best of getting through it on his own.
With the back standing.
Jim Meehan at the Spokesman Review. For Chris, you're able to outscore Arizona in the paint. You're not the tallest team, but what does that speak to of what you're able to do offensively and the guys' individual ability?
Well, I think it shows that our players understand what our purpose is on offense. Regardless of the opponent, it's my belief, and I hope it trickles down to our players, that good teams find a way to get the ball into the lane. And they probably get sick of hearing me say this, but you have to get the ball into what we call the box or the lane, the paint, through a few ways. And that is through post-ups, through drives, through offensive rebounds, and through set plays. And our teams really recognize that. The team that can put another team in foul trouble or get in there usually generates open looks either from the perimeter or underneath. You're going to draw second and third defenders, whereas if the ball stays on the perimeter, there's no need to bring a second defender. And that's been an emphasis for a long time at Xavier and will continue to be. And these guys are making it happen through their hard work and their intelligence.
Questions? Go back to Jeff on the left.
Yeah, Quentin, can you just talk about your development and maybe what's been the toughest thing you've had to learn on the fly here as you've been thrust into this new role?
I feel like, the toughest thing I've had to deal with was, playing through my mistakes. I expect so much out of myself that, when I make a mistake, I kind of get down. But, I give credit to these guys and just, putting confidence in me, telling me I have to keep playing and, that everybody makes mistakes. I'm just going to have to play through it. And, I give a lot of credit to these guys from leading me because they never led me into the wrong direction.
Anybody else? We'll go on the right, a few rows back.
Tim Bondas from the Washington Post. You mentioned last night, Chris, that I think something was brought up about Gonzaga, and you kind of dismissed the question about just being two Jesuit schools. But that being said, in a sport where you look around and you see so many of these teams from the Power 5 conferences with these football programs have been able to advance deep in the tournament, is there any sense of pride to have your school going up against Gonzaga, to the premier schools in the country in terms of basketball, without having that extra support involved in it?
Absolutely. I've known Coach Few for a long time, and I think Gonzaga does things the way that we do it. I can't speak for everything they do, but at Xavier, homecoming is around a basketball game. Parents' weekend is around our Midnight Madness. Everything is so basketball driven. We play Villanova, we play Cincinnati. Like, our students are going to camp out for tickets. And I don't know if that always happens at a place that has a 100,000 seat football stadium. And so we cherish that. And it's a credit to Gonzaga. It's a credit to the guys up here and the guys in the locker room and the ones before them at Xavier, that both of these programs are in the position that we're in. And, I got off the elevator today and, was coming to the bus to come over to the arena. And I saw this monkey running around, and I picked him up. And so if anybody sees Coach Few later on, if they want to return that monkey, it's in our locker room for him.
Well played.
That was some funny stuff that he had the other day.
Any more questions, guys? Okay, we'll dismiss the coach. You're going to stay here.
Okay.
And we're going to send the student athletes to the breakout rooms in the back. And floor is open to Coach Mack for additional questions. Okay. Go right in the front here, third row back.
Hey, Coach. Eamon Brennan from ESPN.com. Can you talk a little bit about Sean Amara's evolution as a player over the course of the season? He obviously started off getting a decent number of minutes, kind of went away at stretches throughout the season and has played more. What did you see from him coming down the stretch of the season that led you to give him these opportunities, and then if you could talk about his play.
Yeah, I'm really I'm happy for Sean O'Mara. You know, I think some of the best developmental stories of players are the ones that don't get it handed to them early. You know, I think a year ago about the kid James Farr we had, who struggled to get off the bench his first couple years and turned into an all-conference rebounder his senior year and led us to a 2 seed. And Sean's following that same path. You know, the thing about Sean is he's always been, ever since he came here as a freshman, a terrific back-to-the-basket player, a guy that just really knew how to use his shoulder, had a great touch, and our guys really have confidence in him and have always had confidence in him as a scorer. Where he's grown is he's become a lot better rebounder. He's become a more disciplined defender. And I think with anything in sports, it's all about confidence. And I think Sean, you know, had some in the beginning of the year, lost it, didn't play as well. And we have 3 bigs that are all capable. They're all different. And I give credit to Sean for being able to pull himself out of that rut and play his best basketball in the last month of the season. And we would not be in the position that we're in, you know, playing for a Final Four if it weren't for Sean. And so I'm proud of him, happy for him, because guys that can go through some adversity and aren't handed some things, usually those are success stories that you root for.
Go up front.
Chris, some of the big names in the program's history have been reaching out to this team, I guess starting with Lionel, maybe in Orlando last week. Have you found that, have you found any one of those conversations to be particularly impactful, or do they all just kind of in the aggregate help?
Well, a lot of them are one-on-ones. They're not necessarily speaking to the team. Now, Lionel was a little bit different. You know, his message, you know, was to the team as a whole. And, you know, I just thought it was appropriate for a guy that in his senior year at one point was 10-9. The team was not in the Big East Conference, really had no chance of making the NCAA tournament as an at-large until they went on a stretch of winning 15 or 16 of their last 17 games. Began with a shot against UC, and then, you know, culminated in an Elite 8 run. And I wanted him to talk to our team about the adversity his team faced and what his team did to sort of flip the script and start playing their best basketball of the year down the stretch. I thought he did a terrific job. And then, you know, guys like Jordan Crawford and David West, Aaron Williams, guys have been, you know, NBA players from our program have reached out. Dave was here at the game last night. And a lot of times those guys just pull our players aside one-on-one because there's a brotherhood and a bond that Xavier basketball players have that's really, really strong. And so if they have words of wisdom, our players are always open ears.
On the left, 5th row.
Coach Jay Alter with the Big East Digital Network, when you were rallying off that brutal schedule that you had in February, it made me think, how does the Big East schedule prepare you for a tournament like this?
Well, if you can win enough games, it allows you to get in. And, you know, the strength of schedule that we face, not only in the non-conference, but certainly our conference, allowed us to be in the position to get in at large with a lot of losses. And, you know, the different styles that you play against, the well-coached teams and the talent and the physicality that you play against, I think prepares you well. Now, what you don't necessarily get prepared for is that finality of you lose and you're done. It's over. And as high as you could be 4 minutes before the game's over and excited, it can be taken in an instant. Our players recognize that from our loss last year against Wisconsin, and hopefully that feeling stays away from us this year.
Stay right there, Dan.
Chris, hey, Dan Wolkin, USA Today. Curious why, when you started your career, did you take a job coaching girls basketball? And as you are in that world for a few years, sort of what did you see as your path at that point in your career?
Well, number one, I took the job. I had come back from overseas where my career was cut short with injuries, and I didn't have a job. You know, I became a assistant manager at a video store, and had free time. My sister was playing varsity basketball. the varsity coach was now moonlighting as the JV coach too, because the JV coach just took a full-time job and didn't have the time to coach, and found out that my sister, her brother had just come back from overseas, and coach said, "Hey, would you want to coach?" And I was like, "Girls basketball? I mean, really?" But it was awesome. First year I think we were like 17-4. I thought I was John Wooden. I was a JV coach, and it was like you couldn't mess with my set plays. And then the very next year at the same school, we were 4-17 because they moved all 5 kids up to varsity that were sophomores, and so that was a lesson in humility. And to be honest with you, I coached girls basketball because it was a job that I earned and I got, and it's basketball. And I was in charge of my own team. I wasn't an assistant coach. And then I became a varsity coach and would take my varsity team over to Skip's practices for 4 years. And eventually, he hired me as a director of operations. But, I learned a whole lot, as a varsity coach. There's so many good coaches around the country. Elementary school, high school, girls, guys, boys, girls, doesn't matter. But a lot of them don't get their shot. And I'm forever grateful to Skip Prosser for him allowing me to coach on his staff.
Left against the curtain, Josh.
Josh Peter, USA Today. How is it you ended up hiring Luke Burry, and what has he brought to the staff?
Luke has been a Xavier fan for a long time. I first got to know Luke through our recruitment of Tu Holloway when Sean was the head coach. A guy by the name of Emmanuel Book Richardson, who's on his staff, was very close to Luke and grew up in the same AAU program, if you will. And that's how I got to know Luke. And as I've grown into the job here, he spread his wings and became an assistant coach. He's been at Wagner, he's been at Towson, he's been at Fairfield, or he went to Fairfield, and he's certainly been at Rhode Island with Danny Hurley, and very impressed with his ability to recruit and his ability to connect with players. And I think he's really grown into being a terrific assistant coach with X's and O's. Not to mention, I love the movie Caddyshack. No, I really do. It's a hell of a movie if you haven't seen it.
Stay right in that area, back left standing.
Coach Matt Cameron Cox, 12 News out of Phoenix. What does Sister Fleming mean to this team? And it seems like everybody has a story, favorite story to share with her.
Yeah, Sister Fleming is, she's been with the program well before I was a student athlete at Xavier. And the amount of not just basketball players, but student athletes across the board at Xavier that she's helped in so many ways. Whether it was figuring out a career choice, whether it was making sure they didn't fail a class, making sure that they understood that books came before basketball. But make no mistake, Sister plays to win. She wants to win, and she has been the primary reason outside of our players' motivation when they first get to Xavier for the graduation streak of over 100 straight basketball players from our program. That dates back to 1985. Since 1985, there's never been a player that's finished his eligibility at Xavier and doesn't hold their degree. And again, players and their families are very responsible for that, because that's one of the reasons they chose Xavier. But Sister's been very instrumental in that as well.
Front row.
Chris, based on NCAA tournament results, the results would seem to be in line with like preseason rankings for you guys. Now, you've obviously said that outside expectations are not something that you really concern yourself with. What was your expectation for this group at the outset, and have they met that?
Well, we set goals, and I'm going to continue to keep those sort of goals in-house. But, my expectations are to continue to improve and get better every single day. And I know that's really cliche, but we set some lofty goals, and if you fall short of them, that's okay. But not improving, not coming to practice with a great attitude and great effort isn't okay. So in terms of whether we've exceeded or matched or underachieved to other people's expectations, we really don't concern ourselves with that. I am proud of this group because when you set off to start a season, you never know what pitfalls or roadblocks you're going to come across. And there's always going to be some type of adversity through the year. How your team handles it usually reveals the type of team that you have. And our team handled it extremely well, and for that, I'm really proud of our team.
Left side, third row, John.
John Wilner with the Mercury News. Not that Xavier, Big East, Gonzaga are mid-major in any way, but it does seem like the makeup of the at-large field in recent years has skewed towards the Power 5 football leagues. You think the presence of one of the two of you will help maybe reverse that trend?
I don't know. It's an awkward question because, you know, I know there's 5 major conferences with football, but, you know, we feel like being in the Big East, when you get 7 teams out of your 10 in the NCAA tournament, and your regular season and league champion a year ago won the national championship, it just feels like an awkward question. I know everybody wants to label you and box you in, but, you know, with these 2 programs, the success they had, I mean, the amount of money and the resources that Xavier and Gonzaga put up compared to some of the middling teams in the Power 5, it's apples and oranges. And that is a big reason why both programs have been able to sustain a whole lot of success recently.
Front row.
Chris, you mentioned some kind of relationship with Mark. If you don't mind me asking, could you expound on the extent of that relationship? And, like, do you ever run into him on the recruiting trail, go head-to-head for guys?
Yeah, I mean,
that?
we don't butt heads on the recruiting trail. Every once in a while with a transfer, and we're 0 for 2, by the way. But I've gotten to know him on the road recruiting, not that we're looking at the same players, but all these kids are national kids and they play in the same tournaments. And then, you know, Nike has a trip for head coaches once a year, and I've gotten to know him. He loves to fish, and I love to fish too. I'm just in Cincinnati at the Ohio River, and he's fishing for, you know, trout in his backyard, so it's a little different. I go carp fishing. But I love to fish, and I love to hear his stories. And Mark, to me, is a guy that knows who he is. He's a family guy. He's as down to earth as it gets, and I can connect, and I like guys like that. Not tomorrow, but I like guys like that.
Anybody else? Dan, again.
Chris, Dan Wolken again from USA Today. The fact that you're in the Big East and the fact you talk about the resources, I mean, is Xavier the kind of place where a successful coach can spend their entire career?
If they don't fire you, yeah. I mean, if you want me to expand on it, I'll say, yeah. It might not have been that way 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but I think when you look around and you see the success that we've had versus other programs, I think when you look at the league that we're in, you know, the stats I rattled off before, and understand that a couple of those guys that left Xavier to go to different jobs spent a large part of their professional and personal life in Cincinnati, and with Xavier close to their heart. So I don't think there's any coach in the NBA, in college, in high school that can say, hey, I'm here forever. But when you have what we have at Xavier, it's special, and I don't take that for granted.
Any follow-ups? Nope. We'll close it off there. Thanks, Coach.
Yep, thank you.
3:40 on the next one. We got about 5-6 minutes left in the breakout rooms.
No, not necessarily. I'm just trying to keep in mind what those two guys.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out, camera angles.
Okay.
And if I could move him more in the center, that would be better, opposed to having him on the very end.
Okay.
So maybe just swap those two out. That'd help. Excellent.
I'm trying to move him. I'm trying to stay out of the way. I'll switch over more. Louis. How are you, sir? Get a good night's sleep? Get a good night's sleep?
I did.
Good.
Did you?
Yes. Those extras, okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Trust me, without a doubt. Be scrambling, looking at some point. Okay, we're wrapping up with Xavier. We'll have Gonzaga in about 10 minutes, 3:40. Okay, we're a couple minutes away from getting started. Just a reminder, it's the Gonzaga head coach, Mark Few, 5 starters. We'll take questions from everybody up here for a few minutes, and then we'll send the student athletes to the breakout rooms after that, and we'll leave coach up here to answer questions. And a quick cell phone reminder, if you could put that on the mute. And then again, no flash photography and no videotaping in here of any kind. Okay, we'd like to welcome Gonzaga to the dais. We have head coach Mark Few, and then moving down the line, Josh Perkins, Nigel Williams-Goss, Shimmick Karnowski, Jonathan Williams, and Jordan Matthews. We'll turn it to coach for opening statement, and then we'll open it up to questions up here.
Hey, we're obviously excited to still be playing in what I consider, and I think these guys agree, the greatest sporting event in the world. We feel fortunate, but also I think satisfied that we got through that thing last night. I have the ultimate respect for how tough and physical West Virginia is, but like I said, these guys are every bit as tough and resilient. I've shown that all year, and definitely Xavier has our full attention. I mean, they are on an absolute roll, the way they're shooting the ball and playing right now, probably as good as anybody in the tournament right now. And so we got our hands full with a short prep.
All right, hands for questions. We'll bring a mic over to you. Everybody shy today? Okay. We'll go in the back, standing.
Jim Wozarski with the Cincinnati Enquirer. Sorry, Coach just walked in. I apologize if you were just asked this, but they're changing defenses and how quickly they can do that. What is the challenge then for you and your staff in this short window? And then maybe if one of your guys could speak about then having to execute and recognize those changing defenses on the floor then.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll just keep doing what we do, which is I don't know how concerned we'll be. These guys are pretty, intuitive about the difference between a 1-3-1 and a 2-3 and how to attack it, and so I don't think we're going to get too caught up in that, and just keep doing what we do as far as moving the ball and trying to get it up and down the floor and turn down a good one for a great one, and hopefully we'll shoot it well tomorrow.
Standing in the back left.
Jacob Thorpe, Spokesman Review. Nigel, you've played at a school that has a pretty prominent football program and a school without a football program. Could you compare and contrast those experiences as a basketball player?
Well, Gonzaga is obviously a basketball school without having a football team, and the whole school, the whole community really rallies around our program, and it's just a special place to be because of that support. And they're a huge motivation for us. We just feel blessed and honored to have such a great fan base, and like I said, they're just a huge motivation for us to go out there and compete at the highest level every single night.
Anybody? The front, third row, far left.
For Mark, a couple things. Jeff Frotto, Mercury News. Mark, Chris Mack said he found your monkey, and I wondered if you wanted to arrange to pick it up later from him.
Nice.
And
nice.
And also, could you just talk about the problems that Trayvon Blewett presents in the opponent?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Josh Jackson or somebody or Mason is on as big a role as Blewett is right now. I mean, some of those it doesn't even look like he's looking at the rim, and they're going in and tough shots, closely guarded shots. So I think the big thing for us is just to try to make him work as hard as he can, so he doesn't just get easy touches and he doesn't get any easy looks. And if he makes closely guarded shots and we do everything we can with a hand up and it's contested, that's all we can do. But the biggest thing is taking away some of those easy ones off some of their actions.
Questions?
All right,
Oh,
we're out of
okay.
here.
Dan, right here, second row.
Dan Walken, USA Today. Hey, Mark, I'm just curious, how often do younger coaches sort of seek your counsel, about their careers, who maybe are in this position you were in back in, 2000, 2001 when you're the, quote-unquote hot guy, and what do you tell them?
It's sad that I'm not considered younger anymore. It's just I think one of these guys even called me middle-aged this year, and I had to kind of take a step back. So it's true, though. Yeah, we get asked that a lot. I think not just me. I think Mike Roth, my AD, and our administration get asked a lot on what can we do to be the next Gonzaga. I think it's. I think they should be asking what can we do to be the next Gonzaga or Xavier. With you look at the success that Xavier's had, and I just think it's unique. It's unique to our school, where it was at that point in time. Their willingness to grow. It's been unbelievable how they've understood that a winning basketball program can really build a brand that opens up all kinds of opportunities for the entire school. And it's a win-win for everybody when it's done right. And I think the community has also realized that too. And I think it was a unique point in time in Spokane that we came on the scene, and we've been fortunate to feel all that attention and feel that love. And it's been just kind of a combination of all those things.
Yeah, Dan, hang on 1 second. Just throw it on there.
How did you know back then that it was the right time to sort of build it as opposed to, bounce like some other coaches might do?
I didn't. I didn't. I mean, I just knew that first time in '99 we didn't want to be a one-hit wonder, and I knew if we just could keep growing incrementally every year, and the challenge is still to do that, quite frankly, is to not be satisfied and happy, and as long as the school and the administration and everybody's willing to keep growing, the program has shown that it can it's a 2x, 5x, 10x investment if you want it to be for everybody. And so I had no idea at the time that it was going to do it. We were just trying to get better every year, trying to be a little bit better in every phase we could. And obviously, you look at this group of guys now up here, the recruiting level has picked up, and that's not a slight to our other guys. I mean, we had some great talent back in the days, but those were more evaluation situations where we really evaluated high-level talent, like Matt Santangelo's in the back of the room. I mean, a guy could play anywhere, but maybe wasn't as recruited as hard as some of these other things.
Stay right there, third row, right behind Dan.
Shemek, I'm sure you've talked about this before, but can you speak a little bit to the transition when you came to Gonzaga and adjusting to life in the U.S. and obviously you're very comfortable now. How that happened, evolved.
Yeah, it was a tough transition for sure. Not only from basketball standpoint, but also from cultural and standpoint and language and all that kind of stuff. So, first year I had a great support system with Kevin, and Rem, who helped me out, just kind of adjust to all that kind of stuff. And probably one of my biggest worries when I was coming here wasn't playing basketball here, but also just to be kind of eligible and do good in classroom. So I thought our academic advisor and the entire academic team helped us a lot, and just to be able to be here 5 years later and never really had problems with school and play with these guys. The year around, I think it's been huge. It's been huge for me and for the people that helped me.
Standing in the back, Matt.
Matt Santangelo, Gonzaga Radio. For J3 and Shem, now that you've tasted a little bit of the promised land about bringing the ball down the floor, are you guys going to be able to go back in the paint tomorrow? I mean, kind of the point forward, point center. And then second part for the guards, you guys worried? You going to get some limited touches now that, J3's knocking down threes and Shem's bringing the ball down the floor?
I mean, for me, I took 2 drills and called a timeout. So I don't know if you can. I don't think you can call it point guard skills. But I thought J3 was great with that. Just kind of making sure that we don't get the 10-second count. And when the guards had problems and they were denied, he was huge for us, just to making sure that the ball goes over the half court.
And if I could play on the block for 30 minutes of the game, Coach knows I'd be happy.
Yeah,
so
definitely,
so
definitely.
If we want to switch roles, we could definitely spark a deal.
Back in the third row.
Mark, can you speak a little bit to Shem's personality? I mean, that answer sort of seems to convey the spirit he has and what he sort of impact he makes on this team beyond basketball.
Yeah, hey, again, I think hopefully everybody's familiar with everything he went through. I mean, a year plus ago, a couple months, we weren't sure he was going to ever play basketball again. We were just all hoping and wishing he'd get back to moving and being able to handle just general activity in life. And for him to be all the way back where he is now is a total miracle, and it's a credit to him and the doctors and the trainers and everybody involved, because it wasn't looking good there in January, February. So great story, and I think all of us are overjoyed that he is back, and just feel blessed to be able to coach him, play with him, and just I think everybody realizes just how effective a player he is on both sides of the ball, and so instrumental to our success.
Any other questions? Well, we'll send the coach. You stay here. We'll send the student athletes to the breakout rooms. The floor is open for Coach Few for any additional questions. Or fishing tips.
No, yeah, I don't think this room's got any.
What's that? Yes. No. We'll do mics. Just let those guys go past. We'll go there, and then Dan will do next.
Hey, Mark, I'm just wondering, you guys played in so many, lopsided games this year.
Mhm.
How do you kind of keep your team prepared for the intensity of these last 5 minutes of close games in the tournament?
I think early on we had some games like that. When you look at our games in the Orlando tournament, the Iowa State game was very, very much like the West Virginia one, the way it ended. We had to switch out everything and guard the 3 line. And, it was a competitive game with Florida, if I remember right. And even the Arizona game was highly, competitive possession by possession. So we had those. And then actually once we got into our league tournament, those were not easy games for us. There were ones we had to really, really fight through some adversity of some sort, whether it was offensive or defensive or a little bit of both. And then obviously these games in the NCAA tournament have been very close and hard fought. So I think we've experienced enough of that now that we're kind of battle tested.
Second row.
Yeah, Mark, back when the Big East was coming together with Xavier, when they went in, there was some talk that you guys might be interested in some sort of arrangement with them, whether it was membership or affiliate or some sort of thing.
Yep.
How close was that ever to becoming a reality, and how much, how much input did you have on, whether or not you guys could do that?
Well, I mean, I don't really know how close it was. I know there was talk, and how serious it was, who knows. And again, it's kind of above my, job description and grade. So, but I certainly voice my message to them has always been whatever's best for us, whatever's best for Gonzaga, and then it'll continue to grow us at the highest level is what we want to do. So, I think we're open to anything. The West Coast Conference, it gets maligned sometimes at times this year, but I think everybody got to see how good St. Mary's was, and it was nice to have another top 20, 25 team in there that you could play 3 times, and BYU was a top 100 team, and Santa Clara had kind of rose up, as did San Francisco. That helped better. Our metrics were really, really good this year coming into into the tournament. But that being said, we're gonna, whatever is going to be best for Gonzaga moving forward is what we're going to do. So it's kind of the way it is. Yeah.
Third row.
Tim Bonus from the Washington Post. To kind of piggyback off of that, you were talking before about how you and Xavier are similar programs,
Yeah.
and I think at this point it's probably safe to say that outside of the kind of traditional Big East schools and the Power 5 schools, you have the two preeminent non-basketball schools, they're not football schools in the country at this point. And I was curious, given how often we see the later rounds of the tournament filled with teams that are from these Power 5 conferences with the football infrastructure that they have, is there any sense of pride for you that tomorrow, in this regional final is going to be a showdown between two elite, schools that don't have that kind of infrastructure behind them?
I mean, I obviously, happy and hope it's us. It moves on. But I've always had a healthy respect for Xavier. Just all the way back, we played him when Sean was there in the NCAA tournament. I think we had Adam Morrison, and I mean, we knew how good they were. And then I've watched as they've successfully made those runs to the Elite Eight. I think the little kind of the sneaky, dark little secret sometimes with this NCAA tournament is how many of the non-football schools end up playing each other within this tournament and knocking each other out. And nobody seems to ever talk about that. And so, I think that makes it a little hard if we were displaced differently, which again is too tough to do in the bracket, but it seems like it that plays itself out a lot in the earlier rounds too. You had Dayton playing Wichita State and things like that. And so I think nobody ever talks about that. They just kind of compile the numbers and line up the stats that benefit their argument.
Sure. Well, and along those lines, you mentioned that Dayton Wichita State game. There was a lot of talk about that. And
That was a great game. That was a
game.
possession by possession game. I mean, I watched that entire thing. Was just totally impressed with both, teams.
And there were a couple other matchups like that. There was
VCU, St. Mary's.
Yep. And there was a lack of seeds really from outside of the Big East from a lot of these other conferences this year. Is there anything you would suggest to try to change the way that this is approached moving forward to try to better balance some of this stuff out?
It's hard. Look, I'm on a NABC ad hoc committee that's trying to help with the tournament, and it's been great. I mean, there's a group of us on there that we have these discussions, and it's interesting to see all the different places that people come from, whether it's seeding, whether it's getting into the tournament, whether it's I think we made some really, really nice steps here. I like what's happening. Revealing the top 16 I think was good for the sport, and I think it probably, having that transparency opened up some things. I think that's all coaches want, is just tell us. That was the message that came out of all our meetings, was just tell us what we need to do, whether it's road wins or, top 50s and all that. And then we got into the top 50s, and I think we're making some real ground up with the composite, combining all these things so we don't have these crazy outliers that we have with the RPI, which happens kind of year in and year out. I think if you use more of the indexes, you won't have as many outliers. So I think it's a tough deal. You're comparing apples and oranges and games with players, without players. And I think the committee's done an awesome job, and it's just tough. It's really tough.
How has your views on the role of transfers changed over the course of your career, and how big of an impact have your transfers had on this team?
Well, I think back in the day when I first got started, there was almost like a scarlet letter on people's foreheads or something that transferred. Everybody thought it was, bad guys or something went wrong or weren't good enough. And over the years, we've came to find at Gonzaga, especially after you communicate with them and go through the process and really get to know each other, it's been a really, really valuable aspect to our recruiting and our program. I mean, they've all been phenomenal teammates for us, and we've got some really, really good players that have really helped, push us over the edge. And the ones, guys we have this year, I mean, I don't even really consider them transfers anymore because they've been here now and in the family. But they've just been great. They've bought in, and they wanted a culture like ours. They were longing for a culture like ours, and they really wanted to win, and they, more than anything, wanted to play in something like this. And the cool thing is, they delivered on their end, and we delivered on our end. So that makes it pretty cool.
Yeah.
Since you brought up the ad hoc committee, I don't know if you've been following the NIT or gotten a chance to see how that rule, the experimental rule they're putting in about resetting the fouls, has worked. In, especially in a game like you played last night. If that's something that you think maybe deserves a little more consideration.
I haven't looked at it enough. I was watching one of those NIT games, and I didn't see exactly what the effect was, but there was a lot of fouling going on last night. Let's not kid each other. So, and that was a really, really difficult game for officials to try to, to work and officiate. And I thought they did as good a job as you could possibly ask anybody. I mean, those guys, they communicated with us. But we weren't going to give any ground on the physical side of things, and they sure as heck aren't going to give any ground there. And it was just two teams with an iron will and just trying to get through it. So I don't know how that would have went with the new rules, but we're just dealing with the NCAA committee stuff, so fortunately. The interesting group, though. Hugs is on there, and Calipari's on there, and some interesting personalities. Makes for some good discussions. For some, the irony, I don't want to bore you guys with it, but the irony is, like, they look at me as the composite guru, the index guy. I don't have an email. Okay, I do not have an email. I don't know how to do Snapchat. I don't know how to do Twitter. I don't know how to do any of these things. And they always, Huey's the computer guy, and he's got lots of Hugs and Calipari you're always giving me. I'm like, what are you talking about? I know nothing about these things. And so anyway, you're talking to the computer guy of the ad hoc committee here.
Right, any other questions? Jeff?
Mark, in talking to you over the years, I get the sense that you probably care less about your legacy than maybe other people around you do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair way of putting it? And can you explain? Would making a Final Four change the way you view your career at all if you guys are able to win tomorrow?
Again, my legacy is, I guess, built on a lot other things. I mean, it's built on the respect my players have for me, and how they feel about how they were treated and coached and developed and all that. I mean, I am schlepping along right now, like vastly far behind my father, who was 54 years a Presbyterian minister, man. He's saved thousands of souls. He's helped, hundreds and thousands of people through all their tough times, and I mean, that's kind of the legacy that I'm looking at, and just like, I got a long ways to go to, get to first base, living up to that guy's standard. I mean, he's a titan of a man, when you talk about the impact he's had on people. So I've always just wanted the guys to just have the best that they could possibly have at Gonzaga. The year they were there, the 4 years they were there, the 5 years they were there, the 2 years they were there, I wanted it to be absolutely the best. And that's all I cared about. Never at one time have I focused on my record or my winning or my... So as far as going to a Final Four, I mean, I desperately want it for this group of guys. I desperately want it for everybody who's played at Gonzaga, the players that have been such a huge part of that. Be awesome for the school and for the Spokane community to be able to feel good about and hang their hat on. But my legacy is going to be about other things, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Anything else? Good? All right,
Okay.
we'll conclude it there. Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.